All right, this is tape number 18, and we're going to be talking about the Fourth Amendment in this tape. Okay, the words of the Fourth Amendment are the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. So, a couple of points. Number one is that we're secure in our houses, our papers against unreasonable searches and seizures. That means reasonable searches and seizures are okay. And you need probable cause to do things. So, and if they want to search, they have to get a search warrant. It has to be a specific search warrant. This is a pretty important part of the Constitution, this Fourth Amendment. So, I just want to go over a couple of things about it. I'm going to use the old whiteboard here. So, we're talking Fourth Amendment and unreasonable searches. Okay, and again, keyword is unreasonable here. We need to always keep that in mind. Okay, need to also introduce a new word, a consent search. For example, you're in a police car. You're in a car and a police officer comes and the police officer asks permission to search your car. If you say yes, you have given a consent search. And when you consent to a search, you pretty much gave them carte blanche to do whatever they want as long as they, you know, I mean, let's be honest, they can go and rip the car apart looking for something if that's what they want to do because you have given consent. That's really the big thing about here. Um, okay. Um, Also, you need to know that searches are okay without consent if the officer fears for their safety. Okay, this really, this is really an important point. So, searches are okay without consent if an officer is concerned for their safety. So you're stopped by a police officer, you're walking down the street, and the police officer is very concerned because it looks like you might have a gun in your pocket. And the police officer, if the officer is concerned for his safety, other people's safety, they can go ahead and search without consent. Okay, but they've got to be concerned about their safety. Okay, let's really get into the nuts and bolts of the Fourth Amendment. And it's really easy to do. You have to look at it as to what you're doing. Are you a pedestrian? The reality is we go through life mostly as a pedestrian, but we also could be in a vehicle and we also could be in our home. Okay? Now, you have the least protection when you're in a vehicle from searches. And the reason for that is very simple. You're on government road. Okay? And you have the most protection when you're in your home. That is, the old statement about it being your castle. It's really true. If you're in your home, they can't come and search you without a really good cause. Okay, so let's start briefly with the pedestrian. Uh, the key thing here is reasonable suspicion. So you're walking down the street and Police officer stops you and says, "Hey, I saw that there's been some activity, illegal activity at HEB, and I saw you, and the description of the people doing the illegal activity matches your description. So I'd like to stop and search you. You know, reasonable suspicion to stop you, and then depending on how it goes, they can possibly search you. What it goes to, reasonable suspicion is the first step. And then the second step is something called probable cause. Do they have probable cause that you might be a suspect? So, stop you with reasonable suspicion. After talking to you, they then move it up to probable cause that you might have been engaged in something you aren't supposed to. That gives the police officer all sorts of leeway. Okay? You also need to know this, and I really don't have room to describe it, but we're going to put a 3 here, and this is called a Terry stop. And a Terry stop is it actually goes to a court case involving someone named Terry. And basically, what a Terry stop was is the police have the right, if they are concerned about their safety, to stop and frisk you. Okay? And we already alluded to that right up here. Okay? They're okay, searches are okay without consent if an officer fears for the safety. When you go to an airport and you're going to go fly, basically you have given the police the right to search you, the transportation security agencies the right to search you. Okay, in essence, that's a Terry stop. Okay, you're viewed with suspicion when you go through the airport. You're automatically taken as, we got to be careful of this person. So therefore, we have the right to search them. That's a Terry stop. Go through it every time you go through an airport. Okay, when you're in a vehicle, you have a diminished expectation of privacy. And so the key thing here is the plain view, and an officer can stand outside your car and look inside your car and see what's going on. Okay, so they stand outside. If it's at night, take a flashlight, look around it. If it's during daytime, they can just look. They can look at all the windows. They have that right because it's in plain view. Plain view also includes animals, dogs with noses that can sniff drugs or other things. Plain view means also plain smell as well. Okay. Also, this includes something called immediate control. So, police officer stops you. Okay. Immediate control. Police officer stops you, and when they stop you, they say you reach your hand, and you're the driver. They reach your hand behind your seat. Okay. Police officer then they can get to the car. They can look at what's in plain view without a search warrant. Then the next thing they can do is they can actually reach down there into what is in the driver's immediate control and look there, all without a search warrant. Immediate control includes the gloves box, the center console, what's on the side of the driver's door, what's on behind your seat. Okay, that's all in immediate control, and the police officer doesn't need a search warrant. Okay, you can also be ordered out of the car, and if you're ordered out of the car, you have to do it. And when you're ordered out of a car, you become a pedestrian. So they have to go through the reasonable suspicion and probable cause, the same steps that they would if you were just a pedestrian. Okay, but that is part and parcel of what goes on. Um, just another couple things that you need to know. Roadblocks. Is there a roadblock? Are they constitutional? Roadblocks are constitutional if they're truly random. If they're going after cars on the basis of a profile of the driver, that's not random. But if they're stopping every car or every second car, that is okay. I've been in a couple of roadblocks. One was for drugs, another was for insurance, another was for an escaped prisoner. Okay. And each of the times it was random in the sense that everybody got stopped. Okay, and that is totally constitutional. Okay, as long as it is random. All right, I'm going through these things so quickly, we can go into so much detail if we want to, but I'm not sure we need to. Um, let's see. Also, you also have the same protection in your car and also in a rental car. Supreme Court said that 2 years ago in 2018. Okay, let's go to the last one. Home. You're at home. What are the key things to know? Number one, you have the greatest expectation of privacy. Plain view test certainly applies when you're in your own home, and that makes sense. Okay, you have the right to privacy in your own home. But police officer walking by and your window is open and he looks in and he sees somebody hit somebody else. Can he run in to stop it? Yes, he can. Can a police officer walking by hear somebody yell? Can the police officer then come into that house? Yes, they can. It's totally constitutional because that's plain view. Okay, just a couple of other things regarding it. Um, Trash cans. You put your trash from your house into the cans, you take it to the street, and the city comes and picks it up. Can the police search it? Yes, they can. You are voluntarily giving up your trash to the police, to the city. You're giving it to the government. You're just saying, here, take it. There's no secrecy. So that's the way it goes. Can the police officers fly a drone over your house and look using plain view, but with a drone? Well, that hasn't been litigated to the Supreme Court, but air searches by planes have been, and as long as they're above 1,000 feet, that is constitutional. And the last question on this regarding homes, and I don't have much room, so I'm going to put it over here. Hot pursuit. Hot pursuit. Okay? Hot pursuit. What is hot pursuit? Well, police officers are chasing someone and they all of a sudden run into your house. Can the police officers come into your house? You better believe it, they can. I have a little story about that. My brother is a prosecutor out in California, and he was on a ride along with the California Highway Patrol one Friday evening, and they were chasing some guy who was driving a car, and the guy got off the freeway and then rode into a residential area, and there was all these California Highway Patrol cars following, and then they got right to a residential neighborhood, and the guy who was being chased, he just stopped his car in front of a house, jumped out of his car, and broke in the front door of somebody's home. Okay. And the police officers, they all piled in right afterwards. So all of a sudden, in this home, there's all these people running through, and the guy was being chased. He just ran straight through the house, right to the back door, went in the backyard, tried to hop over the fence, and that's when he was captured. Okay. My brother was following along behind, and he entered the house like all these other people. There was this older couple, a man and a woman. They were in their pajamas, they were watching TV, eating popcorn, and all of a sudden their front door was kicked in. A man ran through, then all these cops ran through, and then their back door was kicked in, and all these people went through. And so my brother, who was not a police officer, but a prosecutor, he just followed and talked to the couple and tried to calm them down, both having heart attacks. Is that search legal? You better believe it. That's hot pursuit. Totally legal to come in like that. By the way, the police officers, what if they enter the home and they go, oh my God, this is a drug manufacturing facility? And they ignored the guy they were chasing and instead focused on the drugs that were in the place. Is that legal? Yes, it is. Okay, so be careful of all that. Okay, final thoughts. Game wardens have less protection. Excuse me. Game wardens have less restrictions on their movement than other law enforcement. So they are, how do I say it? They have more freedom to operate in regards to searches and seizures. And the reason for it is very simple. I asked a game warden about it. He says we've never been taken up to the Supreme Court. And so because they've never been taken up to the Supreme Court, they are given more leeway in entering people's property and searching, that sort of thing. So they can do things that regular law enforcement can't. And it's just the way it is. And that'll be that way until a game warden is taken up to the Supreme Court. And also, really, there's a really interesting question about DNA. And it's really simple. Do you own your own DNA? And we've talked about this in class before. Your trash has your DNA. We've talked about, your DNA can be left on things. If you're using a straw, your DNA is on that straw. Your DNA is on your toothbrush, whatever. Okay, you throw it away. Did you really give up all privacy? Did you give up your privacy regarding your DNA? And that has never been finally resolved by the Supreme Court. At some point, it's going to be. You notice there's been all these cases recently about these cold cases, cold murder cases, unsolved for 50 years. There was one that's been unsolved since, I think, 1963. Okay, the woman would have been 80, but she was killed back in 1963. Okay, the police used DNA that had been voluntarily discarded to solve that murder. Is that constitutional? And that we're waiting for a Supreme Court ruling on. Okay, so there we go. The Fourth Amendment, just remember, unreasonable searches and seizures are prohibited. Consent searches are okay. Searches are okay without consent if an officer cares, if an officer fears for their safety. The key thing about the Fourth Amendment, are you a pedestrian? Are you in a vehicle? Are you in your own home? And remember, greatest protection in your own home, least protection in a vehicle. We'll be back with the next one.